Well, I only saw my name once, but I'll go ahead and start up anyways, just for you guys. Welcome to yet another Loreweek. We will not be talking about nothing but Nintendo this time, I swear. But the first thing I want to talk about is Nintendo. So, Nintendo. I was going to show an intro with the video, but I'm actually still working on version 17 of the intro video, and I didn't have enough time this morning to finish it, so we're not actually going to be doing that. Instead, we're going to be talking about a couple of quick things, really quick, before we actually get into real proper topics. As usual, I just have a couple of quick things to toss out for the intro bit here. One of them has to do with Obsidian. A few days ago, Obsidian tweeted an image, and I was like, hey... no, I'm not muted. I can see right there. I was like, hey, Project Louisiana. Right? I mean, maybe it's a new Fallout game. I actually tweeted myself about the thing that Obsidian sent out. However, for those of you not aware, there was another tweet. In fact, here, I'll actually pull this up right now. Give me just a second. It's taking some time to load. Also, make sure everyone votes. For those of you who care, and for those of you who don't, well, that's okay, I guess. But hello, everyone. There we go. Okay, so yeah, here's the Obsidian Twitter. Now, the original tweet was just a... Where is it? I'm going to find the actual... Here it is. It was a picture saying, I used to dream that when... Here it is. It was a picture of a tobacco, like a pipe, smoking pipe, and a piece of wheat, and it said, I used to dream that when my God came back, he would forgive us. That's the trouble with dreams. Sooner or later, we have to wake up. And everyone's like, oh my God, it's going to be the thing. Here's the voot, by the way. And so, yeah, there was some talk and discussion. I was going to bring it up this week, of course, as I am doing right now. Then, not too long after that, they tweeted another image. You know better than anyone that nothing is more dangerous than a god's secrets. Perhaps the leaden key was right to keep this one buried, with an image that is very indicative of Pillars of Eternity. And then not too long after that, another image was tweeted with 5 stars and a quill saying, just the same as before, no? The gods play their games and leave us to settle the wager. But this time we'll turn the tables on them. And most recently, a picture of 2 crossed cannons, like ship cannons, and a fish. Gunships, cannons, and the Hazanui's will. If any order can come to this wretched stretch of brine and savagery, we shall be the ones to bring it. So, basically what I'm trying to say here is that it's actually Pillars of Eternity 2. It's Pillars of Eternity 2. That has to do with... several of those are clearly and definitively Pillars of Eternity related. So for anybody who's actually interested or engaged or curious about Pillars of Eternity and want to see a Pillars of Eternity 2, likelihood increased. I'm actually a little surprised by that, though, if I'm being honest. They kind of let Pillars of Eternity fall to the wayside, development-wise, or at least it seemed like they did. And then started working exclusively on Tyranny. Hey, Roots. And by the way, hey, Deutsch. Hope you're feeling better today. And Tyranny was quite a bit of a success, apparently. Should Diablo go on the poll? No. After some thought, Diablo has been pretty much permanently removed from the poll for what is effectively the same reason that Hearthstone has been removed from the poll. See, the thing is, there's only really 2 ways to play Diablo 3 in a Blizzard Sunday kind of a format. We start new characters and just go through and have fun with it, which we actually did once, or we just go and loot grind for a while and rotate people in and out. So, Roots, I point you to my website. But yeah, so, I mean, I look at that. And, I don't know what else to say about that. The other thing I wanted to talk about very briefly here is Battletech. For those of you not aware, there's a Battletech PC game that's been on Kickstarter for a bit now. I've been kind of idly following it because I've been kind of missing Battletech in my life since basically MechWarrior 4 Mercenaries was the last Battletech game, in my opinion. Really, Roots? Oh, you hurt me. You hurt me. Anyways, it's really simple. LoreRunner.com. It's really freaking simple. Well, yeah, like as Gary says, that there's not really a lot of reason to do a Diablo Blizzard Sunday. It just doesn't quite fit the format of what we're doing. Heroes of the Storm and Overwatch and StarCraft are all pretty much perfect, especially since 2 of those games are free. Anybody can get Heroes of the Storm. Anybody can get the StarCraft 2 stuff we're doing. Overwatch requires money, but is very popular. And, of course, I can shoutcast it. So all 3 of those games fit perfectly with regards to Blizzard Sunday. I think it's Wrath right now. The only reason I even added the time walking thing to the list at all is because PAX asked me to. I don't expect it to go up. That's literally the only reason. And if PAX isn't on, that's going to be funny. Because then he doesn't get to do it. Yeah, he's not on right now, so that's funny. Anyways, let's get on with Loreweek. So yeah, Battletech. There's a new Battletech game. I am admittedly curious. I'd like to know what's going on with it. The latest update has to do with melee attacks. I really like the fact that they're discussing the thoughts and game design philosophy going into it. The idea of having the ability to unload small weapons when you do a melee attack actually does add some significance to a small weapon build. You know, I don't know if you've played a MechWarrior game, but if you're fighting other mechs, then there's really not a lot of reason to have things like flamers or small lasers or machine guns or whatever. They're kind of crap. But if you can unload those basically for free after doing a melee attack, that adds some purpose to them. That's pretty cool. I like that. Anyway, so now that we've talked about that stuff, we've got about 7 minutes. That's about a good time. So there's an idea that's been tossed forth, especially by PAX, actually, called iterative design. Now, I've actually talked about iterative design before, and I actually like iterative design a lot, actually. But in this case, we might have the possibility of iterative hardware design. Let me explain what I mean by that. Right now, let's talk about the Nintendo Switch. We know a lot more about I told you we'd be talking about Nintendo. I wasn't actually kidding. Lord Chicken? I'm not registering Lord Chicken. The Nintendo Switch right now, you know, you got almost all of what the Switch is in the handheld thing, right? The dock only really upscales it and charges it, and I believe that's it. Everything I have read and seen has indicated that the dock's only purpose is being a convenient way to connect it to a TV and to upscale the resolution, and that's it. The actual performance, the frame rate, and all that is the same regardless. The reason I mention that, because of the era we're in gaming right now, it is within the possibility that they could basically release a better Switch, but they could release just the tablet. No need to add the game pads that slide into it. No need to add the dock. No need to add any of the other etc. stuff. You could just release a new tablet, which has better hardware inside of it for, you know, better capacity, better load times, or whatever. And then, because of the fairly modular nature of the Switch, you could just slide that in with the existing hardware. You kind of see how this works here? And so we could have a situation, I mean, we've already kind of seen this happen, actually. It's just we've seen this happen in a situation that doesn't support it. I have, at my left here, a PS4 Pro. This is already an iterative movement as far as hardware design with a console. You're terrible, Gary. And of course the Scorpio is coming out later this year. So the idea of doing this kind of here's the same system, but it's got better hardware is not exactly new. But the Switch has that one advantage over the other two in the fact that all you'd need to buy is that one little tablet in the middle. Now that would still be a decent amount of money, probably $200, $250 or something like that. But you could just slide that in there and all the rest of the stuff is already... You see how this works here? So you could just be like, shkunk, new hardware, new upgrade. You want to upgrade your Switch? Bam. I don't know if they're going to do that. This is purely speculative. But, yeah. And of course, oh my God, Gary. And of course, that is kind of the direction we're already going in. I mean, seriously, that is actually what we're doing right now with regards to console gaming. And as has been pointed out, has been for a while, there are, I think, a total of 3 versions of the Nintendo DS total. And one, two, three, four, 5 versions of the 3DS, I think. So we'll see. This is again just a purely theoretical, but I just thought I'd mention it. So I want to talk about something small. This is just a really small point. In fact, I'm just going to brush over this really quick. Yes, Tegan, that is actually exactly what I'm saying. And really, I've said this before. Consoles don't really exist anymore in the strictest sense of the word. For the most part, most consoles are actually just PCs at this point, and the Switch is pretty much the official. Oh my God, Samus, really? Seriously, the Wii U is probably one of the last home consoles we've actually had that's actually a console, and even this is a barely technically console. The Switch is officially a computer, just like the PS4 is a computer, just like the Xbone is a computer. We are officially at the point where they are just computers. We'll see if that trend continues. The Switch isn't out yet. I can't actually judge that yet. I do, of course, for those of you not aware, and for those of you who don't know, I have a website. I do plan to do a premiere run of not only the Switch, but of Breath of the Wild when that comes out. So be looking for that in March. Now, let me get that timestamp I was just writing down. Let's talk about voice acting. Now, Gary and I have actually talked about this before. A lot of people have actually talked about this, but this came up recently. And I gotta be honest, I don't remember why, because I wrote this note down 3 weeks ago. And then we had AGDQ, and then last week we just talked about the Switch. So I don't actually remember the specific reason why I wrote down this voice acting thing. But, so there's 2 things to be discussing with regards to voice acting. I actually agree with that, Deacon, legitimately. First of all, some people seem to think that acting is voice acting. Oh, I remember what caused it to happen. How many of you know who Chris Pratt is, I think? God, I suddenly can't even remember his freaking name. Is that his name? Hang on. No, it has nothing to do with the voice acting strike. I've actually already talked about the voice acting strike and how complicated of a situation it really is. Yeah, Chris Pratt, that's who I'm thinking of, okay? I want you to picture Chris Pratt really quick, okay? Now, so I had the name right. Now, I want you to name his character in any movie he's been in other than... Well, let's go with a specific one. What was the name of his character in the Jurassic Park movie? Don't look it up. Don't look it up. I know you can name Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy. Can you name his actual name in Guardians of the Galaxy without looking it up? Can you name his character name in just about any of the movies he's been in recently? So this is the point I'm actually making here. Most of the time, at least in the current era, in the era of movie making we're at right now, most actors aren't playing their role for the most part. I'm generalizing. I want to make that clear, but there's a large number of... This is probably the best example of what I'm talking about, Chris Pratt. But most actors aren't playing their character. They're playing themselves. Chris Pratt's character, with a few exceptions, I think there's really only 2 exceptions for roles he's played, is playing Chris Pratt. Another example of this is recent Suicide Squad with... I can't believe I can't think of his name. Will Smith. Will Smith in Suicide Squad was playing Will Smith. And there's only a couple of exceptions in the most recent movies he's been in where he is not playing Will Smith. And this has been a trend for a while now. This is nothing new. I'm just giving you some examples. You could name quite a few examples because several actors are basically pulled in to play themselves, the persona, the overall presentation of who they are and how they present themselves, right? Yeah, Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool is another excellent example of this, actually. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, by the way. I'm really not. I like Chris Pratt. I think he's got an enjoyable amount of charisma. I think he does some good stuff. But sorry, Saldir. What's his voice? You can't think of the actor's name, Rex Simons. Um, See, I'm not sure I agree with that, Gary, because unfortunately I have seen Beyond Earth, or whatever the hell its name of it is. But anyways, I'm getting off topic. The point being, actors. This is a generalization, and this is not always true. There are exceptions, and there are some actors that don't do this. But a lot of actors nowadays are hired or pulled in. Hello, Powerfrog. Specifically to play the persona that they are known for. And Chris Pratt is probably like the most significant example of this I could come up with lately. Was it After Earth? It was After Earth. Um, Excuse me. Um, Now, here's the significance of this. There's been a trend in gaming. This is where I'm tying this into gaming in the last, God, at least 6 years at this point. At least 6 years, where big name actors have been pulled in to play a voice character for a thing. And here's the problem, because a lot of those actors tend to rely on one of two things in order to practice their craft. A, visual mannerisms. Talk to just about any big name actor, any actor who does any kind of acting whatsoever, and they'll tell you that so much of their acting comes through their face, through their stance, through their motions, through the way they talk, through how they talk. You take all of that away, and a fairly large number of actors don't know how to just be a voice, to emote and to express and to do these things when all of these tools in their acting craft are taken away from them. And this has been a fairly common trend, actually, again, in the last at least 6 years. The other trend is that several actors have been hired for games in recent years, again, in the last 6 years at least. Um, that's what I'm here for, Gary. And those people have been doing the Chris Pratt thing, doing the Will Smith thing. You're not hearing a ABC character in this particular game. You're hearing Chris Pratt. Now, again, I don't want to call out someone specific to that, but my point here is that there seems to be this trend in video game development where they just kind of assume that an actor and a voice actor are the same damn thing. And they're frickin' not. And this has been a huge issue in several games. Several people in chat have already mentioned Destiny, which is a fairly big example of this. And again, there are exceptions to this. There are some actors who understand that voice acting is a different craft and needs to be approached differently. And you need to try and emote in a completely different manner when all you have, the only tool at your disposal, is your voice. And that's one of the reasons why I give so much praise to certain voice actors. I know Troy Baker gets a lot of flack for being in everything, but I'm sorry, Troy Baker is a really good voice actor. He is a phenomenal voice actor. He has incredible range, and he knows how to throw himself into the role. He knows how to really do something with just his voice. So does Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill's another excellent example of that. So does Tara Strong. There is actually, so some people say, these Pacific voice actors are in everything. The problem is, for at least the last 10 years or so, there's been the voice actors, and they've been kind of circling because they're the voice actors. There's a reason Steve Blum is in everything. There's a reason, I can't actually think of her name, but the woman who's in everything is in everything. There's a reason Nolan North is in everything. It's because of the fact that these people know what they're doing with their voices. Now, I know what you're saying. Well, hang on. Steve Blum doesn't know how to voice act? Wrong. Most people, when they think of Steve Blum, they think of that typical gravelly voice he does, which I can't even do. But you have not heard Steve Blum really stretch out. He has done some amazing roles, and in fact, some cases, I didn't even realize it was him. And then I looked up, I was like, wait, what? Matthew Mercer is another good example of someone who knows how to do voice acting. Yuri Lowenthal, he's done a lot of stuff. There are a lot of people who know how to move their voice. And I feel... Hi, Mafia, by the way. I honestly feel... Jennifer Hale, by the way, thank you. That was the woman I was thinking of earlier, who's in everything. She also has some decent range. She has her typical voice, which most people recognize as the Jennifer Hale voice. But then every now and again, she really stretches herself, and yeah. My point in all of this is I feel I've spoken in favor. I've spoken in favor of voice acting before. Lord knows I have a personal interest in voice acting. I've been told I should go into voice acting since I was a kid, since I was in high school. This is not a joke. And I have actually done voiceover stuff for, amateur things like like the local game that's being played for the city or whatever, or doing stuff for voiceovers and narration and that kind of thing. Again, since I was in high school. But I'm a complete amateur to compare to these people. But as I like to say, I know enough to know how much I don't know. And I can appreciate and respect just how much effort those people put into their voice acting. How much they can do with just this one tool and nothing else. And I like that. And so this kind of came up with a few recent games. I've decided I'm not going to name names. But there are a few recent games where they've been like, hey, we're going to go ahead and hire this guy. And it's an actor, not a voice actor. And they come in, and it's not good. And this is probably Cam Clark. You know what? I do think Cam Clark is a good voice actor. I know some people make fun of that because he is also a very cheesy voice actor. But he knows how to do cheesy well, in my honest opinion. He does some good stuff. But yeah, anyways, the point I'm trying to say is that I feel it is doing a disservice, not only to voice actors, but to us, the players, when people just seem to assume that they have to go to some big actor and say, oh, please come and voice act for us, please come and voice act for us, and spend way too much money and way too much budget on someone who is not worth the frickin' money. I'm not going to name names because I don't want to upset any of my European viewers, but there's a certain football player, and that particular football player is paid a lot of money to be what I would consider to be a mediocre striker. He's not that good, in my opinion. He's not that bad, and certainly he's better than most, but he is paid way too much freaking money for what is ultimately a mediocre performance. And speaking from an economic perspective, speaking from someone who I have ranted time and time again about how many different problems are being caused by budget when it comes to game development, to see that kind of money pissed off on someone who isn't providing the kind of value that money is worth irritates me. Because do you know how many problems in modern gaming are caused by budget? No, Pele is awesome. There are so many problems being caused because they just don't have the money in order to actually spend it where the money needs to be spent. Do you know why the voice acting strike happened to begin with? It was because they were, in addition to atrocious conditions in some cases, it was the fact that they were getting paid a pittance. Damn it, Gary. It's because they're being paid a pittance. Gary's right. They're being paid a pittance compared to the value they're adding to work. Anybody out there right there? Tell me right now what one of my favorite aspects of Dragon Age Origins is. I talked about it during the lore run. I talked about it during my review of it. Just hit me with it. It's one of my favorite aspects of that. I was actually going to mention the voice director as well, but that's kind of an unrelated problem to what I'm really digging into here. Yeah, of course the voice acting is it because of what I'm talking about right now, but it's not just the voice acting. It's not just the voiceover. It's the fact that effort was put, yes, Lewis, it was effort put into every character. Random NPCs were not being voiced by the janitor who they pulled into the booth and said, here, read this line. They pulled in real actors, who of course would read for multiple NPCs, but they would pull in real actors, real voice actors, to voice everyone. And it helped flesh out the world so much. Because the opposite is the Oblivion problem. For those of you who don't know what I mean by that, Oblivion has some really good voice acting for about 4 characters. And those are the main characters. Those are the ones they spent the time and effort on. Everyone else is, well, you know how Oblivion works. And I love it when a company goes out of its way to make every character voice acted properly because it adds so much to the game. Rather than, it makes it so that you feel like you're talking to a person rather than an NPC. I love Oblivion. Don't mistake me. Yeah, in my head, I actually mix up the words Oblivion and Obsidian all the frickin' time. Sean Bean did a couple of his readings very well, in my opinion. Patrick Stewart, in my opinion, did absolutely nailed it. He really did. Terrence Stamp, I think, is his name. He did a very, very good job of the villain. In fact, I wish he had more lines because he frickin' nailed it. But my point is, no, I have not, Little Billy. But my point is, you've got a few roles that are good, and then a lot of roles that are bad. And admittedly, there's some other roles that are good. This is, of course, generalizing. But you get my point? Imagine just for a moment if Dragon Age Origins had come out. Congrats, by the way, Mandartin. Brofist Mandartin. You should have paid the fine. But no, you get my point, right? And it's funny because it's not always bad. The guy who plays several of the NPCs also plays our favorite Dark Brotherhood gentleman, and he does actually a really good job of him. But then there's some people who literally don't actually know how to say words, and their enunciation is just terrible. And you get my point. Voice actors deserve credit. They do. And I'm not just saying that as an amateur voice actor myself. I am saying that because voice acting adds so much to a work like that. By the way, the specific game that really made me think of this was actually Breath of the Wild. Because, for those of you not aware, Breath of the Wild will have voice acting. We'll see how exactly that works out. But anyways, I've talked about voice acting enough. Who wants to talk about something depressing? I agree with that, Django. I do. Who wants to talk about something not literally depressing? It's just talking about how life is futile and there's no reason to try. Who out there? I'm going to lead into this. Who out there has seen Revenge of the Fallen? Transformers 2, Revenge of the Fallen. A movie I actually love talking about because it continues to be an excellent example of so many aspects of the creative process. Not just for movies, but in general. And again, I'm using it yet again here. I've seen that movie. I saw that movie in the theaters, actually. So, the reason I bring up, in this case, Revenge of the Fallen, is because it sold well. That was a movie whose script was god-awful, and I have actually legitimately used Revenge of the Fallen as a textbook example of bad writing many times. That's not a joke. I have done that. I've done that on my show, even. It was a terrible script that could have actually been amazing. There's some framework there of what could have been good. And it's crude, and it's got broad humor. I think I did too, Roxamus. Broad humor, for those of you who don't really understand what that means, it means humor that isn't that funny. It's humor that's designed to make you get just a chuckle out of you and nothing more. Just, and that's about it. Because it doesn't actually focus on any particular aspect of the various concepts that come up with a joke. It's intended to just be something that is generically amusing, and therefore can hit as broad of an audience as possible. Make sense? A lot of broad humor, a lot of crudeness, a lot of fart. There's a freaking fart joke in Transformers 2. I'm still blown away by that. As I feel like pointing out, the movie, I've said this so many times, they actually legitimately started filming before they had a script. Just kind of improving certain scenes. Because, yeah. No, Billy Zane as Ansem was awesome. I agree, Roots. It's a shame they replaced him. So my reason for bringing this up, Transformers 2 sold very well. Made a lot of money. Think about it for a moment. What's the lesson you take away from that? I'll go ahead and tell you the lesson. The lesson is, we could try to make something good, but what's the point? The only point in making something good is if you want to make something good. You have to have the motivation to make something good. If you don't have that motivation, then at that point you should just go ahead and make something mediocre or bad, because it will still sell. If your motivation is money, there is no point in trying. This is just life. I'm sorry, it is. It has been life for as long as human history has recorded that kind of a concept in human social interactions. If you are interested in making an amazing game, swoot. If you're interested in making an amazing movie, swoot. If you're interested in making money, don't bother. Now, why am I bringing this up with regards to games? And by the way, Deutsch, just to point this out, I actually enjoy several aspects of Revenge of the Fallen. And you know why? Because certain aspects of it, like if you could literally picture Revenge of the Fallen as a puzzle, and replace some of the puzzle pieces in the puzzle with just trash. Like literally just wrappers and Hershey's Kisses, you know, those little aluminum things that get everywhere and they tear apart and just that. That is actually that movie. There are puzzle pieces there that are good, in my honest opinion. All I'm going to say is the fight between Optimus Prime and three other Decepticons was a good scene. It was well directed, well presented, and it was awesome to see them actually fighting on screen. It even had some character development in that scene. Oh, and then Optimus died, which was dumb, but you get my point. By the way, spoiler alert, Optimus died. Anyways. So a game was made last year, and I was asked about this recently. This is what brought me to this topic. It's a game called Star Wars Uprising. No, the little wrappers, Martin. You know what I'm talking about, right? You get those little aluminum things. So it's Star Wars Uprising, right? It was an RPG. And by all accounts, it was a pretty good RPG. It was a game made by people who wanted to put forth a little bit of their time and effort and caring into the Star Wars mythos. Be honest. If you were given the chance right now to work on something for Star Wars, something you could add to the Star Wars mythos, wouldn't that be exciting? Wouldn't you be like, oh, sweet, I get to work on a Star Wars game or book or whatever? As you're probably already catching, as several people have said in chat, Star Wars Uprising was cancelled. Do you know why Star Wars Uprising was cancelled? I bet you can guess. Now, in the interest of total honesty, a lot of the information I'm sharing right now is kind of second and third hand, okay? Because Star Wars Uprising is canceled. It's gone. It's already gone as of now. And yet, there's this game right here called Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. And this game's gutter trash. I'm sorry for anybody who likes this. I really am. So I'm going to add an asterisk to my statement. It is my opinion, that's the asterisk, that this game is gutter trash. It is a freaking just bog standard mobile game. If you could picture a mobile game, this is it. You have a chance of a chance of a chance to get I'm sorry, I said that too many. A chance of a chance to get one of like 64 pieces you need to get a new character who looks different and is overall not really that different from the others. And then you just hit auto mode, and then you just watch them fight it out, and there's PvP, and it's just... I'm not going to go over all the... It is basically all... I actually don't own it, Sal, there, but I did try it. I have actually played this game. I can speak with personal experience that this game is gutter trash. And yeah, it's rated 4.5 on the store, and it makes a lot of money. Why bother trying to make something good when something actively bad makes tons of money? What's the point? What about it, Gary? I feel like I've played that game. I'll have to check my Steam. Why bother, right? Force Arena is apparently out now. I'll go ahead and grab that. Why not? See how bad it is. The point is, this is something that this is the Princess Bride effect. That is actually what I kind of refer to this. I think I'm going to officially codify that. This is the Princess Bride effect. For those of you who don't remember, hang on, Gary. Hang on. Why are you asking me? It's in the middle of a topic, Gary. Goddamn, dude. For those of you not aware, Princess Bride is a really good movie. My opinion. You may, of course, tell me that I'm wrong on that. That is, of course, your prerogative. That's how that works. Everyone can have their own opinions. Looks like I've never played it, Gary, so I have no idea. And there's your answer. Princess Bride sold like dog crap when it came out. It bombed. The people who made Princess Bride did not make good money. Nowadays, it's considered to be a almost universally beloved film. I actually don't personally know anybody, as in people I know in real life, who doesn't at least like Princess Bride. It's a good film. I recommend it. Earthbound. This is my other favorite example. How many of you know what Earthbound is? How many of you love Earthbound? I think Earthbound is one of the true innovators of RPGs, and I mean that sincerely. It did a lot right, and a lot of effort. It was also, even if in no other way, you know one thing Earthbound did that no other game did at the time? It put a lot of effort and money and time into localization. It was probably the first game out of Japan that was properly localized. All the way back in the SNES era. Final Fantasy took till 9 in the end of the PlayStation 1 era to catch up to that. Just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Earthbound did not sell well either. Just because a game or a book or a movie is good does not make it make money. And that's just reality at that point. The things that tend to be really good are either happy circumstances, because that happens. Luck isn't a thing, but randomization is a thing. But either it's just random, that it ended up being good and also making money, or it doesn't make money, and the people who made it just kind of move on with their life, and they're on with it. And that's the end of it. And more and more and more of the kind of games and movies and television and books are being made that are mediocre or worse. Because those sell. And I have to admit, I'm probably part of the problem on that one too. If I can go ahead and add something to this, I defended Dragon Age 2. I have defended Dragon Age 2 for many years, basically since it first came out. But even in my opinion, Dragon Age 2 is, this, of course, just my opinion, Dragon Age 2 is a mediocre game. Net. It's got some good, it's got some really good, actually. And it's got a lot of paste getting in the middle of that good. Mediocre in the end of the equation. And I bought Dragon Age 2. In fact, I pre-ordered Dragon Age 2. Played it first day it came out. The problem is there are many, many, many different reasons for a consumer to buy a mediocre product. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they're not interested in being invested. They just want to go ahead and play or watch something for a while to distract them from their life. Escapism in its most basic form. Maybe they're just interested in having something to do for a while, some kind of entertainment. It doesn't have to be amazing. Maybe life has ground them down so much that they don't actually really know what good is anymore. That they're just accepting wallpaper paste, to borrow a term from someone else. Props if you know who I'm referring to. Maybe they're like me and they want to give everything a chance. That is one of the major reasons why I've bought so many games and movies and books, even being hesitant walking into it. I've said many times there's several things about me only being interested in something for the show. Mass Effect Andromeda is a great example. But I have to admit, I would still be tempted to buy Mass Effect Andromeda. I wouldn't pre-order it, but I'd still be tempted to buy it because that's kind of my mentality. I want to know for myself. Consumer trust is a thing, but when everything else is burned away, when the crucible is gone, excuse me, when the crucible has done its job and everything else is gone, that's what I meant to say. It's been proven before that you can have a franchise that's amazing and one game that's bad in it, or a franchise that's terrible with one game that's good in it. There's always exceptions, you know? So maybe Mass Effect Andromeda will be amazing, and I won't know that until I play it. So I'm part of the problem. Yeah, Transformers 1 wasn't actually all that great, but it was interesting enough, and I'm really hopeful that they're going to make Transformers 2 really good. So I'm part of the problem, because I want to see for myself if Transformers 2 is any good. This is, in my honest opinion, a problem with no solution. It's a byproduct of a mathematical formula that I actually can't even think about, actually. I don't remember the name of it. The idea is, if you do 1,000 variables, over time, patterns will emerge. And because patterns start to emerge, patterns continue to emerge, and then continue to emerge, and then continue to codify until you no longer have patterns, you no longer have the 1,000 variables, you just have like these two. And that's what's happening here. I'm speaking very broadly, so forgive me, but in terms of the overall culture of the way we develop and produce entertainment media across the board, over time, there's these patterns that are emerging, which I'm just going to refer to as the mediocre line. And there's always exceptions. I'm one of those people who thinks that gaming is not on a downswing. I think we have actually had a recent upswing in gaming, a new golden era, if you will. But the problem is those golden eras at this point are basically the exceptions, like I just said. There's so much mediocre. I named like 20 or 30 great games that came out last year. How many games overall came out last year? I don't actually know the number on the top of my head. It's got to be at least a couple hundred games came out last year. At least. That's not counting all the crap that's coming out on like Steam, for example. You know, all the green light games that aren't actually really being tracked by the people who track that kind of thing. You get me? I also don't think there's any real solution to this problem. Because it is my honest opinion that there are two things that lead to a great work of entertainment. Luck, or a genuine desire on behalf of the developers to make something great. To, and I love to use this quote, add to the substance of the universe. And it reaches that kind of mentality. Yes, I know, Deacon. By the way, for those of you not aware, Steam this last year, 2016, released more games in 2016 than they have ever across Steam's existence. That's not a joke. Think about that. But yeah, it is my opinion that if you really want to make something great or good, the only thing you can actually do is swallow the fact that you will probably fail. Not at making the great game, not at making the great movie, but you will fail financially. You will fail in terms of your career or your options or your path forward. There's another thing that brought this up recently. Obsidian. Now, thank God Obsidian finally got a lucky break with Pillars of Eternity. But how many years did Obsidian spend about 1 inch from bankruptcy as they produced amazing game after amazing game after amazing game? Think about it. So, let's talk about Dishonored 2. Conk. Hang on, let me backshift. There we go. Okay, Dishonored 2. I know this is just a brief footnote. In fact, we're just going to do a couple things really quick. For those of you who know, Dishonored 2 decided to add fully customized difficulties to their game, which is actually really awesome. And kind of unusual, actually. That is correct for most, and most people remember Amnesia as the successful one. Just like most people remember Doom more than they do, say, I can't actually remember the name of the game. It's a tank game. Or Wolfenstein 3D, for that matter. Anyways, Dishonored 2 decided to add full difficulty options. And it got me thinking, why doesn't every game do that? I know that sounds weird. But here, let me lay this out for you. I was wondering that too, Deacon. There's an old saying that I hate, and I do hate it. And that is the saying is that necessity, or it's something about necessity and desperation and innovation. In other words, the only reason that it's the idea behind the saying is that you are more creative when you have less. And God Almighty, I hate that saying because it's terrible. So let's see here. You can change when you can save. You can change if time is slowed or not when you access the quick menu, the quick wheel. You can change enemy perception. You can change enemy overhearing perception. You can change how much visibility you have when you're leaning. You can change how constrained your leaning is. You can change the speed of the sleep dart. You can change how much footstep noise you make. You can change how persistent people are, how long they spend looking for you if they're in search mode. You can change how much reinforcements show up. You can change your health regeneration. Hang on, next page. You can change how much damage enemy does. You can change how whether the people attack in a group or individually. You can change how frequently they attack you. You can change the accuracy of their ranged attacks. You can change how brave they are or how cowardly they are. You can change your mana replenishment. You can change the ammunition quality. You can change the elixir speed. You can change the elixir strength. You can change how tenacious they are about chasing you. And you can change how visible you are when you are stealthed. All of those can be turned up or down. That's right there. That's difficulty options. That is proper difficulty options right there. Because you can completely customize that difficulty to however the kind of experience you want. If you want every enemy to be Wolverine, you can do that. If you want to have enemies who are very good at sneaking, but if they catch you, they're not good at combat, you can do that. If you want to do the reverse of that, enemies who will just kill you if they catch you, but are very bad at detecting audio or very bad at detecting sight, you can do that. That right there is proper game difficulty and should be lauded for being awesome. That is the kind of thing that the more I think about it, the more it boggles my mind that most games do, and I hate to call Oblivion out on this one, the Oblivion route, where there's a slider that changes the health and the damage values, and that's it. Should FPS have that? Yeah, in my opinion. How about a game like, oh, I don't know, let's name a game I played recently, Pillars of Eternity. How nice would it be to be able to tweak the specific settings of the AI and the enemies in that game, as opposed to a generic difficulty slider, which basically just changes health values? Hey, I still like Oblivion. There's a reason that term net positive exists. I know, Zoan. I know. But it is still my duty to point out the fact that that's awesome. And it's one of the things that more people should be doing, my opinion. So, for those of you not aware, speaking of paste, Nintendo recently entered the mobile market with a game I actually did a exploration on, and as a consequence, a review on. That being the no Super Mario Run. Here it is, Super Mario Run. Right. Well, they're coming out with a Fire Emblem game on the phone, and I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. Apparently, Valvedrix is now a moderator on the Discord. Congrats, Valvedrix. I don't even know if you're in chat right now. So, Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem Heroes is coming out on the phone. Now, my initial reaction was, cool, I'm interested. My interest plummeted as soon as I figured out what it is. Because what it is it's Final Fantasy Xvius. It's just that in Fire Emblem. Because the way it works... tell me if you've heard of this before. So you spend money, or earn up currency to spend, over time, in order to slowly have a situation where you can randomly get a random hero from across all of Fire Emblem, any of the recognizable heroes from previous Fire Emblem games, and then they join your party, and then you go fight. Unless they die, of course. And that's how you recruit people. Does that sound familiar? I say Final Fantasy Xvius because that's what Xvius does. And a few thousand other mobile games do that method as well. In fact, I got one for you right off the top of my head. There's a Transformers mobile game that I actually looked at briefly that does the same damn thing. You want a new Transformer? Okay, spend money, or in-game currency, which you very slowly get, in order to get a random chance to get a guy. And of course, in most of these games, I can't speak for Fire Emblem, but in most of these games they have the slot machine programming built into them. That's true, Deacon. If you don't know what I mean by the slot machine thing, I don't know how true this is now. Can you name an example, Bradley? Anyways, I don't know if this is true now, but back when I used to be fairly... back when I used to go to Vegas regularly and learned about how the casinos worked regularly, because most of my family lived there and actually still lives there. So this was a little over a decade ago at this point. The slot machines were designed to have, basically, it wasn't truly random. There were chances. For example, the odds of getting a low result are very, very high. The odds of getting no result are actually pretty low. The odds of getting a medium result are equally low. The odds of getting a big win are extremely low, but can be tweaked. This right here is not random. This is controlled chance. This is controlling the dice, basically. So, for a lot of these kind of mobile games, and I know at least a couple of them do this, they'll do a thing where, let's say you get this one particular token a day for free, right, to turn into something. Well, you turn that token in, and that token has a very low chance of getting any of the good characters, right? If you pay money to get a token, the game can keep track of that. Nothing in the game interface tells you this. But if you spend money to get that token, you have a much higher chance of getting a good character. The thing is, usually there's another layer to this. For example, the extra layer is the fact that, let's say you get a good character, but a bad version of that character. In other words, you are now encouraged to spend real money again, now that you have successfully gotten the character you want, to get a better version of that character. You with me? I don't know if Fire Emblem's going to do that or not. But it looks like someone took the Fire Emblem combat interface and then slapped it onto a completely typical mobile game. So my level of interest could not be lower. I don't mean to be negative about that, but as I actually talked about somewhat recently, just Friday actually, I did a rather extensive look at many different mobile games, and I saw the 5 or 6 types of mobile games that they all kind of boil down to, and I walked away because none of it was actually fun or interesting to me. No offense to people who like mobile games, by the way. Legitimately. It's very much not my thing, though. Hi, Stars of the Ocean. Did Bradley ever come up with an example? Doesn't look like he did. A couple people came up with an example, like Tetris. We all know Tetris has a story. I've done a lore run on Tetris. Took about 10 seconds, though. So, yeah. Oh, by the way, really quick, the story of Fire Emblem Heroes is that So, for those of you not aware, I don't know if this is going back before Awakening, but at least from Fire Emblem Awakening and onward, they've kind of embraced the idea that every Fire Emblem game happens within the same multiverse, different dimensions, different worlds, but overall connected loosely. And thus, and that explains some of the DLC stuff, both in Awakening and in Fates, and it kind of explains this new one, Heroes, because you are literally summoning these people from their respective games. You know, it's kind of the Dissidia effect, basically, except it appears to be much more loosely done. Now, does appear to be an actual story mode. This is the other reason why I mentioned it with regards to Exvius. Actually, Darkrai, those are the majority of what I was playing. I take it you weren't here Friday. Because I talked about this. But yeah, so yeah, we've got all these Fire Emblem characters from all the Fire Emblem games joining up and be like, yay, and now we'll go fight. I wonder if they'll have support values. There's also a Fire Emblem game coming out on the 3DS, which I know almost nothing about. It's called Echoes. I wasn't able to find anything of real significance to talk about it. The main reason I wanted to bring this up, we've just got this theme of depression today, don't we, is the fact that it seems that certain companies that have previously avoided the mobile market have decided to delve into it completely. And rather than saying, hey, this will be great, we can go ahead and make a good, sorry, I'm just going to say it, a good, real game on the mobile, they've decided, like, we can make a mobile game and make money. Now, that being said, let's go ahead and play devil's advocate for just a second here. I want you to presume a theoretical. This is purely theoretical, and probably not true. But let's presume for a second that there's a company. Name a developer you like. Doesn't matter which, okay? I don't care which. Just pick a developer that you like. And say, developer is like, well, we really want to be making games that are amazing and awesome and take time and investment and emotion and we really pour ourselves into. Why don't we make these crap mobile games on the side that make tons of money? You know, put some effort and time into those, obviously, so they do make money. And use the funding from that to make these games. What would you think about that concept? By the way, make sure you voot. This is the last topic I have, so if you haven't vooted, get your voots in. Like I said, probably not true, Django. We're just talking hypothetical. I have seen a company do something similar to that in the past, which has succeeded, actually. I have not seen what I am talking about actually happen. Now, let me go ahead and explain the automatic problem with that statement. Because, remember, developers don't make decisions. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's true. The developers, the people who care, the people, or theoretically at least care, do not have the choice to make their games. That is decided by the people who are the decision people. I usually refer to them as decision people because the specific roles vary. Sometimes it's the money people, sometimes it's the manager people, sometimes it's the investor people. It depends, right? The decision people make the decisions, not the developers, right? So let's assume that this works for a couple years. You know, insert developer A is doing mobile games on the side to fund these games over here, right? Well, a couple years pass, and the decision people look down at this and say, why are these games making so little money compared to these games? And you already see the problem that unfolds, don't you? Because remember, from a money perspective, from a purely business perspective, there's no reason for this branch over here to even exist. This branch does not exist to make money, and it is not making as much money as this branch. And one of the biggest problems in all of society, in my honest opinion, and I've talked about this before, is the mentality of, we don't want to make a profit, we want to make all of the profit. The inflation problem, basically. We want to make all the money. So even if this over here was making money, it is not outside the realm of feasibility that the decision people would look at this and say, that's not making enough money. Why don't you put all that effort over here and we can make even more money? Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Cancelled. Anyways, that's your depression week. I mean, Loreweek for the week. I'm going to eat a brief lunch so that I can stream for the remainder of the day. So you have basically until I finish eating to voot. If you have not vooted, please do so. Otherwise, I'll see you around, guys.